Welcome to this special edition of the Scooby Panel. Wendy and I are going to be giving our thoughts on the announcement of this new live action series that may or may not be happening. So on Monday, April 29th, it was announced that a new Scooby-Doo live action drama might be coming to Netflix. Maybe. They're reporting that they're near a deal, but that a deal has not actually been made. And the project has a script to series commitment at Netflix, which means if it's well received, it will become a series. But again, this might happen. It's not a definite. We'll talk about the thought on that in a little bit. So the only information that we know about this series is that it's written by Josh Applebaum and Scott Rosenberg, who worked on Cowboy Bebop, executive produced by Greg Berlanti, Sarah Schechter, and Lee London Redman for Berlanti Productions, as well as Josh Applebaum and Scott Rosenberg, alongside Andre Nemec and Jeff Pinkner under their Midnight Radio banner. The co-executive producers will be Jonathan Gabay of Berlanti Productions and Adrian Erickson of Midnight Radio. Berlanti Productions is responsible for Dead Boy Detectives, You, and Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. I've heard people speculate that this is going to be similar to Riverdale, but again, no one really knows what it's going to be. What were your first thoughts when you saw that everyone was posting about this new series?
Yeah, it was a very just, oh no moment, because Riverdale was the first thing that popped into my head even before I saw any names that were attached to it. Berlanti, and you mentioned, was responsible for The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which I would say was like a couple steps down from Riverdale, but still was meant to be within the same universe, and it still had like a higher rating as far as like maturity and stuff, and it had some mild sex scenes and a lot of violence and stuff like that, which I didn't think was appropriate for that character either. And I just feel like the climate of everything with Velma and just the way that Warner Brothers has gone with things lately, I can't imagine them doing a series about Scooby now, a live action one that is not something mature and dark and gritty and inappropriate. I mean, that would be, I would love to eat my words on that and have them do just like some kind of straight up something more in the vein of like those Cartoon Network movies that they did, where they were totally appropriate for everybody. I can't see that happening. So yeah, my first thought was just like, oh, I'm going to hate this.
I had three first thoughts, actually. My very first thought was, is this a joke? Like, Velma season 2 just came out, and now they're talking about this live action series, and is it a joke? But then I realized that outlets like Hollywood Reporter and Deadline and Variety were the ones that were posting it. So no, not a joke.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, this isn't set in stone. You've already taken Holiday Haunt away from us. A movie that was totally complete, that we could see, and you just won't let us see it. Now you're talking about a live action series that might happen, but you're not sure. Why wouldn't they just wait until it was actually set in stone?
Yeah, maybe they're testing the waters to see what the reception of it would be before they commit to it. Or honestly, like maybe sometimes people are just jerks too. And I feel like sometimes certain people get off on the idea of like teasing others.
Yeah.
So they know that there was a lot of outcry over them canceling Scooby projects, and everyone's like, oh no, we want more Scooby. So, I mean, there is like a possibility that they're just they're just teasing people because that's what they feel like doing, and they can sort of like a flex, sort of. Because I kind of feel like lately with Warner Brothers, there's a lot of flexing going on
Mhm.
with like, look how much money we have that we can make a production and we can just throw it away. We don't
Yeah.
even have to show it to you. And so in that spirit, like you say, they might not even do this. We might be talking about this for no reason. They might just be like, yeah, forget it. And the next thing we hear, it's been shelved and it's never talked about again.
Right. And then my third thought was that fan-made YouTube episode that came out.
Mhm.
I think it was last year it came out. It got 4.6 million views on YouTube, and that was just a fan-made episode.
Mhm.
I don't understand if they wanted to create a live action series. Couldn't they have just reached out to those people and said, "Hey, we want to work with you to continue your series"? And who knows,
Mhm.
maybe they did reach out to them. Maybe they're the ones that are going to be doing this. Who knows?
Mhm.
But I think it's really odd that these people made a fan-made episode and all of a sudden now Warner Brothers wants to make a live action series.
Mhm.
They never do anything with the fans, but they have no problem making things that fans want,
Right.
but not giving the fans actual credit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And again, we shouldn't really be surprised though, because that is kind of like, hey, we're making Scoob, but guess what? None of the voice actors are actually going to be able to take part in this.
Yeah.
That's kind of what that feels like. Because I have heard a few people mention that fan made one from YouTube in regards to this new series and stuff, and how like those people might be really upset if this series turns out to be like essentially a ripoff of what they did. And, that would suck. And I mean, but it's not their property. It belongs to Warner Brothers, so they can do what they want. They don't have to give royalties or work with them or anything. And I would definitely, I mean, I could definitely see Warner Brothers just being like, yeah, that's our idea now, and you can go away, and we're never going to speak of you again. And just like Scott Geralds likes to say, people like to take Scooby and piss on him to make it theirs.
Yeah.
And so Warner Brothers has been doing that for years now. Would not be surprised if this happens, if this is just like another stage of that, where they really don't care about anybody else, because at this point, it's clearly not even about the money for them. If it was about the money, they wouldn't be shelving projects that they've already paid for. So
Right.
it's like, what's left? What is in it for them? What are they getting out of this other than the flex of seeing people who don't like what they're doing? And they're like, you know what? We don't care. We can do what we want. And,
Yeah.
like, that's really sad, and that's really sad to especially to see a character like Scooby being used as, like, a pawn that way.
And the fact that they're not just doing it to Scooby. I mean, Coyote versus Acme was shelved too. So,
Mhm,
it's not just Scooby. And it's a shame
mhm.
because these movies should be seen. These people are working hard, and you're just going to tell them, well, you did all this work, we're going to pay you, but no one's ever going to see it.
Yeah,
How do you
yeah.
treat the people that work for you like that? I don't care
Mhm,
if they're just contracted.
yeah.
They're doing a job for you, and that's not how you treat the people that do work for you.
No, no, and, even if you make a paycheck and then your work just is never seen, companies and stuff that are not responsible for the creative process of anything, they're just like, "Well, you got paid. Who cares? You got paid. Move on." It's the principle of it.
Right.
When you pour heart and soul and work into something, you're not doing it just for the money. You want people to be able to see and appreciate the work that you did. So yeah, that's a really crappy thing for them to do on multiple levels. I can't imagine, but when people do that to you and they just treat what you've done like it's nothing, it's not even about the money for you. It's the principle of things, and yeah, that's not cool, and there's no reason for it. There's no logical reason at all for what they're doing.
It's also, I think, at some point, if they keep doing this, going to be hard for them to find people that are actually willing to work on projects for them.
Well, I'm kind of afraid that with all of this like merging, and Warner Brothers right now is like bigger than it's ever been. That's what happens in a monopoly, where you get so big and you eat up all of the competition, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And it's no longer like, oh, well, we want somebody to come do this job for us. And the people are like, yeah, I don't know if I want to work for you because you're not reliable. And they're like, well, you know what? Where else are you going to go?
Right.
Where else are you going to go to work? You don't have a choice. So not only are you going to work for us, but you're going to work for less, probably, because we can pay you less since we're the only option, and we'll treat you however we want. And I'm scared that that is the direction that the industry is going, that Warner Brothers has like gobbled up so many different things that they are just like this mega company now, where they're going to be able to do whatever they want. And if people want a job, they're going to have to just, yes, sir. What do you want me to do?
Right.
And like, that's really sad too.
Yeah. Yeah. Back to the live action series. Do you think there's a demand for a live action series?
Well, we do know people that would like it. I think the volume of people creating a demand for that is way smaller than what it appears to be.
Right.
Because like anything, the people who are the most vocal about something are not necessarily the majority. In fact, they're usually the minority in anything. It sometimes can seem like it's the majority of people that are asking for something, when in reality, it's just that the few people that do want it are willing to like go online and scream the loudest about it. So I mean, I guess in this day and age, with how things are made, you don't really need a huge demand to justify making something. I think you can still make a profit even if like your target demographic is quite small. So I am not I am not in that demographic. I do not want this or need it in any way, shape, or form. Again, I kind of, I mean, I'm sure that there are some like OG Scooby fans from back in the day who would be okay with a live action series, but I think that it's more people that grew up with the live action movies that will interest in that, rather than, you know, people that are a little bit older and more familiar with classic Scooby-Doo. Uh, I personally don't think there's enough of a demand to justify it or warrant it, especially given what I'm pretty sure they're going to do with it. But again, there's always going to be a handful of people that want to see whatever it is, even if nobody else does. And today that seems to be kind of a selling point, maybe, for producers and stuff, where it's like, okay, well, here's this tiny little group of people that want this. Let's give it to them for whatever reason. I don't know.
I think people are going to be disappointed. And I say that because the demand is they want Scooby-Doo 3. They want the original live action cast to come back and do a third movie.
Yeah.
And that's not what they're going to get.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure, I mean, those movies, I was never a huge fan of live action Scooby, but those movies were true to Scooby. You know, there were some things here and there that I felt were a little weird in a kid's movie, but you know, they still, for the most part, kept the characters wholesome. You know, they weren't awful movies. And I just have this feeling that this live action series is going to be everything that Scooby shouldn't be.
Right. Yeah. Almost like this series is WB's answer, the way that their reunion special,
Yes.
where I mean, someone will have to convince me otherwise about this, because I am convinced that Warner Brothers went online to do research for that reunion special, and they took notes on all of the things that the Scooby fans said that they wanted, and they're like, don't do any of those things. We're
Do
going
the
to do the
opposite.
exact opposite. Do
Yeah.
not give them any.
Yeah.
Just ridiculous, you know? And so, yeah, I think there's a good chance that that is what this movie or this series would turn out being is like, yeah, all the things that people were actually kind of into, yeah, we're not gonna do any of that. We're just gonna do this other thing over here that's like the opposite of what you wanted.
Yeah. I personally am just getting really tired of them making Scooby a joke and
Yeah.
just degrading the characters, making them something that they're not, taking
Mhm.
stereotypes that like aren't even true, just things that
Yes.
people have said that have become like what
Mhm.
everyone thinks,
Yeah.
and taking them to like the 20th degree,
Yeah.
like making it so over the top. And
Mhm.
I don't know if Warner Brothers is just trying to like kill off the Scooby-Doo franchise by doing all of this. We've said it on the panel a few times before. If they're not going to be respectful of the franchise and do things that keep Scooby wholesome, then we don't want them to
Yeah.
make any more Scooby.
Yes.
And I kind of feel like that's what they're doing between Velma and this live action series that, I mean, yeah, we don't know anything about it. But if I know anything about how things have been going, it's not gonna be good. It's not gonna be Scooby. It's gonna be
Yeah.
like the live action of Velma and maybe
Right.
worse.
Yeah. Yeah. And as to like to make a point to go with what you just said, where because I'm sure that there are going to be people that are like, oh, well, we don't know anything, so you can't say and you don't know. What is the saying? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Yeah,
We have witnessed what Warner Brothers is doing plenty long enough to make an educated guess about what's going to happen. This is not just you and me pulling something out of thin air, making conjecture based on nothing. This is based on like 2 decades now watching the progression of what they have done to Scooby
right.
and just the way that they handled the whole Velma thing, like the most hated show in history almost when it aired. Let's give it a second season. Guys, like what more do you need to convince you about what this company is trying to do? And I like you say, we have talked before on the panel about how like if you're not gonna keep the integrity of the characters in the show intact, just quit making it. I am doubling down on that 10,000% now over this. I am sitting here in a room filled with stuff that I love. I brought this Scooby out so we could see. This is what Scooby is. Okay? That is what Scooby is. He's sweet and wholesome. He's helpful and caring and generous. There is nothing inappropriate about him ever. And I realized something today when I was thinking about all of this. I realized that thinking about the most recent, and by recent, I actually mean like the last decade or so, the most recent iterations of the character of Scooby, I don't like him. I don't like Scooby's character anymore. He's not the character that I grew up with. He is not the character from Where Are You or any of those series. He is different, and I don't like him. That's not okay. And this is not like an opinion thing either. Scooby might as well be a living thing the way that people love him. And the fact that he is the product of people who cared enough about making entertainment back in the day, he belongs to them. I don't care who bought out the company, who now rakes in the royalties. I don't care. Warner Brothers, you do not own Scooby, no matter what you say. Scooby belongs to Bill and Joe and Ruby and Spears and Ewo and Bob Singer. Those are the people that Scooby belongs to. They are his parents. And you have no right to take him and make him something that he is not supposed to be. If you want to do that, you make your own character. If Scooby was a real human being and you were treating him like that, people would not be having it for a second. Can you imagine if somebody came to you and was like, "Oh, I know how much you love your grandma. Your grandma was this amazing person who like started her own business back in the 50s and still raised a family, ran a store, everyone loved her and she didn't take any crap from anybody, but everyone respected her because she was polite and kind and would give you the shirt off of her back. We want the world to see grandma." And you're like, "That's amazing because grandma's wonderful. I love my grandma and she has a wonderful story to tell. She was a wonderful character." And then they're like, "Yeah, actually though, we're going to like tweak the story a little bit. We're going to like tweak her and we're going to give her like a drug addiction for start. And then, well, she's going to cheat on your grandpa with like the guy up the street a couple of times. And then, we may even make her like a full-blown prostitute who then beats her children because she gets drunk." No one on this planet is going to be like, "Absolutely, that sounds great. Let's do it." So just because Scooby is a fictional character, you think that that's appropriate? As viewers and people, like as stewards of Scooby-Doo, we have been charged with taking care of what those men that I mentioned, of what they created, because we love Scooby. It is on us. If no person watched any of that crap that they're making, guess what? They'd stop making it because there would be zero money in it. So it is on all of us to say something. And guess what? It is okay to not want new stuff of something that is no longer what it was. And Scooby is no longer what he was in 1969 or even in the 80s. That Scooby-Doo is dead. Scooby is dead. And the way that Warner Brothers is going with this, like, guys, just stop. Let him rest. Okay? I am quite satisfied with what I have now. I really am. I personally am not interested in anything new that they're going to do with Scooby because he's not Scooby anymore. They've killed him. He is dead. Let him rest in peace and stop digging him up again and just like degrading him further and further, because that's what it feels like they're doing. And can you imagine taking a real dog and saying, "Oh, but I love you so much," and then it gets old and it goes blind and it goes deaf and then it can't walk very well. It falls down the stairs because it can't see, hear, or walk. It breaks a leg and a hip. And you're like, "Oh, no, I'm okay. Well, we're just gonna, you'll be fine. You'll be fine." And you just keep going and you just keep going until that poor dog is just like, "Please, somebody put me out of my misery." And then when you think that it can't possibly survive, you're like, "Cool, put it on life support. Let a machine keep it alive." That is cruel, even to a fictional character, because that character means a hell of a lot to a lot of people for a very specific reason. And Warner Brothers has completely obliterated that reason, and it's not okay. It's not okay. This Scooby, this is our Scooby, and we love him, and what has been done to him is not okay, and it's time to stop. I don't want any new Scooby. Any new Scooby ever again. This is it. Here's me and Scooby. We're finished. We're done.
I don't know if I'd say I don't ever want new Scooby. I think there are people out there that could actually do a good job, that would actually
Maybe.
keep the integrity. I just think that right now the demand for that type of show is not existent. And that's what's sad. People feed off of drama. They like to deal with stress for some reason, or stressful situations, and I think that that's how all of our shows have to be in order for people to watch them. And it's a shame that it's like that. It's not what I want.
Yeah. No. No. And it's detrimental in a way that, like, I don't know if people are just too stupid now to realize it, but like if your actual life sucks and your only downtime where you're watching entertainment is also stuff that sucks, you're going to be depressed. And it's going to be really hard for you to like get through life when both your when your entertainment is simply mirroring all of the problems in your real life. Because the point of entertainment is supposed to be an escape from that, from all of the negative and the bad. And so it's actually doing everyone a great disservice by, it's not making life easier or better for you. It's just making it harder because now you're just piling on more negative stuff from fictional characters. People get invested in shows. They don't care if it's a fictional character or a real person. If you're watching that show and you love it, what's happening to them is affecting you emotionally. If you've already got too much emotion going on because like bad stuff's happening in your real life, you don't need more. You don't need somebody piling like your entertainment piling that onto you more. Like we got to get back to where like our entertainment is entertaining, because I feel like everyone right now needs that break. Life is hard. It is really hard for everybody right now. And somebody please make some entertainment that like makes us feel good again, because it's non-existent right now.
I think Scoob Holiday Haunt and Mystery Pups would have been perfect. I think both of those would have been really good shows, or Holiday Haunt was a movie, but I think that they would have been exactly what we need right now in the Scooby franchise. But we're getting a live action series, maybe not. We'll see. I'm sure details will come out eventually, if it's going to happen or if it's not going to happen. I wish that they would just tell us when it's going to happen and not maybe it's going to happen.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody is speculating, and a lot of people want to see Scooby-Doo 3 with the original cast.
Right.
That's what people are looking for. And
Yeah.
Matthew Lillard said he's working on something. So a lot of people are thinking that maybe this is what he's working on.
Right. Well, I mean, I suppose it is possible that instead of making Scooby-Doo 3 as a film, they could make it a series that would essentially just be like a longer version, you know, a more drawn out movie, because it would have multiple episodes, but with the characters and the cast from the original one. Maybe, I mean, anything's possible, I suppose.
And
I don't know if it's likely, but
it's also possible that they could do a really good job with this series. It's possible. My brain is saying, no, it's not going to happen, but it is possible. Like, I don't know the people that are working on it. I do know the series U, and if it's anything like that, it's going to be just a very crazy Scooby series. But
yeah.
It's possible that they could potentially make this really good. So we know nothing about it. Eventually we'll learn about it, or they'll say it's not coming out because Netflix doesn't like it. Whatever the case is, tell us what you think about the news of this live action series in the comments. And what do you hope to see in the series? And thank you for joining us for this special edition of the Scooby Panel.